We're here. So that's good.
Whoa.
Hey, do I have sound on YouTube? This new YouTube player is like going to be the death of me.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Live air production meeting.
Yeah.
Things that will never change.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nope, we're good
sound.
now. Yeah, this live YouTube, so this new YouTube production studio, I'm going to complain about this for a minute to start this show because it bit me on Sunday. It just bit me again. It's been biting me all over the place. And they do all sorts of previewy stuff or, actually let you know when there's no audio and stuff coming through, which if you're a long-time listener of the show, wouldn't be the first time that's happened to us. But on Sunday, it just was showing me a please stand by screen for about the first minute of trying to do that. And then now it was just like, oh, well, there's no audio coming through. I'm like, crap. Are we screwed up again? Nope, don't look like we're screwed up again. So that's what that's all about. YouTube needs to get their life together. Anyway,
they do.
It's a normal show, and I am happy for that. It's been a little weird for the last couple of weeks. We thank you guys, those of you that have caught the YouTube shorts or still checked in on Sundays or whatever. We thank you for sticking through that. Life happened. I had a honeymoon. Dan had to go help set up a new store for his job. We should be relatively normal from here on out, though. So, as normal as we ever get. So,
right.
Yeah, we should be relatively normal from here on out. Those of you that hung out through that, we absolutely do thank you for that. As I know it was weird. There's been missing audio podcasts because of not having the equipment. Dan doesn't have all the equipment at his house. Normally it's me who records and uploads. So, he didn't have any means to do the audio podcast. So it was just YouTube only. One reason why it's important you like, subscribe, and hit that notification icon because you never know when we're going to pop up there. We are still delivering weekly content and have been. It just hasn't always been in the places you normally expect to find it. But that being said, once again, subscribe, like on YouTube, Beerfield Fantasy Football, Sunday morning live streams every week. Also, give us a follow, Beerfield FF on Twitter. I am at HotBFF from St. Louis, Missouri, joined as always, or as not as always recently, by my co-host, Dan Thury in Springfield, Illinois.
Well, at Thury BFF, I've already been drunk today.
Have you?
So,
day off?
Disc golf and... So, little fun fact, or I guess not fun fact, little short story. We're playing with guys that I used to work with, or guys that I work with. Jake shows up. You know who Jake is from our wine department.
Yeah.
We asked him to bring more beer. He brings 24 different craft beers.
Did he?
That range from 6% to 9.5%.
Attaboy, Jake.
Yeah. So it was a little Monday morning fun day.
He's good. Jake is good for stuff. I miss Jake.
And then I took a 2-hour nap when I got home.
Have not seen Jake in a while.
Jake's good stuff.
Jake is good stuff. All right, yeah. I'm back from a week-long hiatus in Arizona, out enjoying the desert. Really cool place. If you ever get the chance to go, definitely do it. Cool, literally at night, but also just an awesome place to visit. Anyway,
nice.
We got some catch-up to do. So, have not handed out a beer punishment since week 4. That was mine. I will be fulfilling that today. After some debate on a week 6 thing that Dan typed in wrong and I thought I was going crazy about, we split the last 2 weeks. So week 5, I took 7 points to 3. Not your best showing that week, Dan.
I had a rough week in week 5. We'll just say that. So,
yeah, I went 2 for 3 on starts, 3 for 3 on sits, 0 for 3 on streams, and 2 for 2 on you call it. Dan got a point each. Yeah, and starts and
I don't want to talk about week 5. We're just gonna ignore it like it never happened.
Week 6, we both had a really, really good showing. Dan edged me out 8.5 points to 7. For those of you that don't know, a point is things we got right out of a possible 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, basically. So Dan got 8.5 out of a possible 11. The half points are injuries. We tend to not count those one way or the other, so it's a half point. And so really good showing from both of us in week 6. I'm more impressed by mine because I literally sent mine in sitting from a balcony with no research whatsoever. Just kind of like, I kind of like that. Here, go for it. So, yeah. super
I'm
happy.
just glad I got back on track with my you call it's.
For sure.
Like I called out on this show. I'm like, I think the Jets can just outright beat the Cowboys, and here we are.
Yep,
beat them by 2.
and they did. I was right on an over under. I was right about Washington, Miami on an over under. The week before, I was right about another over under. So things I normally don't do. I was also right about the Saints beating the Jaguars, though. That was my money line bet. They were
Nice.
plus 120 on the road, so that ended up working out.
Good.
All right, let's. It's enough rambling. As always, normal Monday show. We got our hangovers, so we'll give you all of our injury updates. Any news that has came out. There was definitely some of that on Sunday. We'll also hit you with waiver claims, start sits, and our pick your six, where we have some pretty interesting topics. I was actually happy to see you had written in some things that I actually had wanted to talk about. But before we do that, let's find out what is fueling us today.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, go ahead and start it off. You've got one of my favorite breweries down here, actually, probably my favorite brewery down here that I've been to or had in Heavy Riff.
Yep. So I have Heavy Riff's Pineapple Mango Layla. So Layla is their wild ale series that they use all natural fruit flavors for. One of the reps came up here for a tasting me on Saturday and dropped off a bottle for myself and Andrew. So I am partaking in that today.
Good stuff. Heavy Riff, if you ever get the chance, if you're ever passing through St. Louis, definitely stop in there. They have incredible beer. They're what's the vanilla cream ale? Love Gun. Yeah, Love Gun is a fantastic drinker, especially in the summer, and their Velvet Underground, especially the coffee vanilla variety, which I've only been able to find down here, is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
All right. As for me, I said I had a punishment to pay up. Dan gave me Old Style, which wouldn't have really been a punishment, but the problem is that's a Chicago thing, which Chicago is near and dear to my heart. But you can't get that down here in the unfortunate city of St. Louis, which is not near and dear to my heart. But I had to compromise. So for 99 cents at the local gas station, I found an Ice House Tall Boy. So this is my week 4 punishment pay up. I will be drinking Ice House. And we'll have a craft beer episode on Wednesday, but there's a strong chance we both also have craft beer because, we like to stick to brand. And to be quite honest, I haven't gotten to review one in a while.
Yeah, it's as much as we like to punish ourselves and the other person with shitty beer, we also like to drink good beer and talk about good beer. So,
yep, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news.
News.
Speaking of good beer, by the way, a couple things I want to shout out if you're ever in the Arizona area. Mother Bunch in Phoenix, down by Roosevelt Row, absolutely fantastic beer. Didn't necessarily see them distributing or anywhere else, but they were great. And there's also a little shop called Craft 64, which actually has a Pinot Noir that was fantastic, and also a bunch of good beer. Half their taps are theirs, half their taps are other local beers, but more specifically, probably some of the best pizza I've ever had. So, they wood-fired it. They put fried egg on it.
What?
Yeah, it was delicious. So if you haven't tried fried egg on a pizza, it's a popular thing on a burger. It's also really, really good on a pizza. But shout out to Craft 64, Mother Bunch. We also hit a bunch of wineries and stuff while we were out there, but those two really, really stood out. So yeah, shout out those guys. All right, Miami quarterback Josh Rosen was benched in favor of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Dolphins coach Brian Flores says Rosen is still the starter going forward.
As you should, because if you want to tank, you put out your worst quarterback.
Exactly. But my question is, if that's the case and you want to tank, why did you bench him here?
I don't. It makes absolutely no, and then they almost came back and won the game. So it's like, it couldn't get worse. Let's not injure our quarterback of the potential future. Probably not, but maybe. And then they realized that they almost won.
Yeah,
And
like
they
what-
can't do that shit. So.
were they trying to send a message? Because that, has happened before. So I don't know why you would put Fitzpatrick in just to throw him back to the bench for that. There's nothing about Rosen being hurt or anything like that. So
Yeah,
I don't
I don't know.
I don't know. Another benching situation. I expect this is probably more permanent. Titans quarterback Marcus Mariota was benched in favor of Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill came in and did look better. He ultimately threw an interception as well, but that was more late in the game trying to put something together, whereas Mariota came in and threw two. I'd expect Tannehill to start and to actually improve this offense a little bit, and this is something we've called for ever since Tannehill ended up on the Titans.
Yeah, so news reported said that Variable was supposed to make a decision at some point tonight. I haven't seen any updates on it yet. I'll keep refreshing Roto World to see if anything pops up. But I agree with you. I fully expect this to be Ryan Tannehill's job, at least for the foreseeable future. The offense itself looked better. I think Corey Davis saw all of his targets with Ryan Tannehill, which is a vast improvement from what he had with Mariota.
Better for Davis. It's better for A.J. Brown. It's better for Adam Humphries. It's better for Derrick Henry. Honestly, I'll get to that here in a little bit, but
it might hurt Delaney Walker because he doesn't get fit. Well, maybe, because I don't even know. The offense just looks so...
It's just so out of sync and so off. We don't really know how they want to run it because the few games, the passing games have been there. Derrick Henry's look good. But the passing game goes away, and they can key in on him, and he's not the type of guy that's going to make people miss. And Dion Lewis doesn't do well with anything lately.
No,
so
he's this is a I want to see how the offense looks with Tannehill before I start to try to buy into these players. But Davis could be a sneaky buy low if you feel like this offense gets going and he gets involved a little bit more.
Yeah. Cardinals defensive back Patrick Peterson's been reinstated from his 6-game suspension, so that'll give the secondary a little boost, albeit don't know how much. Cardinals' offense has been good enough to probably win more than they have been, but the defense has not necessarily been great.
Yeah.
The Jets activated tight end Chris Herndon from the suspension list. He immediately went out and hurt his hamstring, so
yeah, right.
That wasn't expected to be serious. It was just late in the week, so expect him back. Yeah, if he's not rostered yet and you need a tight end, go ahead and stash him.
Yeah, yep.
And the Patriots have re-signed Ben Watson after cutting him after I don't even know what they're doing there.
It sounds like they did it after their fullback was placed on IR.
Right.
It was just, I don't know. Sure.
Maybe
they move Ryan Izzo to fullback because I think he played some halfback at Florida State.
Yeah, I think he did. So, yeah, I think Izzo probably gets that fullback look because I have been using Izzo as a blocker a ton.
So incoming 3-touchdown game from Ryan Izzo from
I guess. All right, let's hit the hangovers and talk some injuries and really get myself caught up here too because I've been kind of out of touch for a week.
Hangovers.
All right, Will Dissly, who is having a breakout season, tore his left Achilles tendon, is done for the year. He tore his right Achilles in 2018. Let's talk.
He might be done.
Well, I was just gonna go the other way a little bit. He's dealt with a ton of injuries. Don't get me wrong, but with the Achilles, that's one of those things where we've seen a Deonta Foreman situation, and we've seen Richard Sherman and Emmanuel Sanders type of situations. So, and what I mean by that is Deonta Foreman took over a year to come back for it, didn't really recover, blah, blah, blah. Emmanuel Sanders gets hurt late last year and comes back to start the season, as did Richard Sherman 2 years ago. So, it's something to monitor. Is somebody I'm probably willing to buy on the cheap. I unfortunately paid up for him. But he's somebody I'm willing to buy on the cheap. As people kind of forget about him and he tails off because of the breakout season he was having, on the off chance that he does come back at full strength sometime next season. It's tight end, so I don't really know how long the recovery timeline is going to be here. But yeah, it sucks. You just got healthy from, he had the right Achilles problem, then he had a knee injury, and now this.
Yeah, which is why I think there's a chance he could be done. I mean, he's not the most athletic guy in the world, and his recovery time from his first one, from his right one, is pretty remarkable. It, it was about a year, and he was able to put up production, nearly from the get go. Now he suffers the left one, on top of the mountain of injuries he's already had. You got to start thinking about life after football at this point. I hope he returns. He's too young. But
That's exactly where I'm at.
It's a real tough to see though too.
You've seen this happen before with tight ends. Zach Miller comes to mind, where he couldn't stay healthy, he fell out of the league, came back. Hunter Henry's notoriously struggled to stay healthy at the beginning of his career. So
yeah,
this is, there's precedent for this and for him to come back and, come back full strength, but there's also precedent for it to not happen that way. So again, I would take him as a buy low, a throw-in piece, something like that, especially on a rebuilding team.
For sure.
Amari Cooper left Sunday's game early against the Jets with a quad injury, is later confirmed to be a bruised thigh. His availability for Week 7 is always is considered to be in doubt. Monitor it. Cooper's played banged up before. It is a bruise, so with bruises, it's more, one, can he keep it loose, but two, pain tolerance. So, without it being a joint injury or anything like that, I would, if there's positive reports later in the week, then that's good. But
yeah,
monitor it, because who knows with that. It could, again, it's more of a inflammation and pain tolerance thing at that point.
That's fair.
Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley practiced today, while Sterling Shepard took part in individual drills. I'm guessing that's Shepard that's considered a long shot for Week 7.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley. Expect both of them back, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's like, I'm pretty sure if the the Giants were playing on Sunday, I think you would have potentially saw both Barkley and Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that they're going to play on Sunday.
Yep, I would agree with that. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport confirms N'Keal Harry is expected to resume practicing this week. He's been on IR with an ankle injury Week 9. With an ankle injury in Week 9 is his projected return date. So for N'Keal Harry, you're not running out to pick him up. I don't think. The Patriots are doing just fine without the added wide receiver help. Jacoby Myers, who I'll talk about here a little bit later, came out with a solid game. Josh Gordon is completely underutilized at the moment. Julian Edelman's being used. Been able to run the football and play defense. I'm not running out to the waiver wire for N'Keal Harry.
See, like for me, I think it's going to help the offense as a whole. I mean, they need playmakers because it looked ugly the first 3 quarters against the Giants. The Giants don't have a very good defense. Their offensive line isn't great. And if the running game doesn't get going and you got to let Brady be Brady, yes, he can get things done, but just adding more playmakers to this team is going to help. It's going to help overall. I agree that you don't need to run out and run out and pick up N'Keal Harry, but it's something to monitor. I'm throwing him on a watch list. There's a reason why we loved him coming into this draft class.
He's super athletic. He can make the contested catch, and he landed in a good spot. It's just a matter of, when you go back to preseason, there wasn't a ton of, more towards the end there was, but there wasn't a ton of good news coming out about him. He was banged up, so it's gonna be, you're gonna have to wait to see what his progression is, where he's at. The good news is he's had a chance to sit back and learn the offense. But you're going to have to see where he's at physically and where he's at as far as some of those nuances of being a kind of raw but talented rookie coming into the NFL. And if the Patriots will utilize him kind of like the Seahawks have DK Metcalf.
Yeah, his buy low window is
now.
It's very close to closing because once he blows up, and he's going to have, I think he'll have a blow up game. I think he'll have himself a 5, 6, 7 catch game with a touchdown or 2 and one big one, and that's going to be the end of that. So if you're trying to buy him on the cheap, which you should, you better be doing it soon.
All right. Ian Rappaport reports there's optimism Sammy Watkins will return against the Broncos in Week 7. What's LP?
Limited participant.
Limited participant. Got it.
Yeah.
So he was limited participant today. Yeah, that's good news for that offense, which has struggled the last 2 weeks, weirdly.
Yeah.
I don't know. They so much struggled last week as Deshaun Watson just was really, really good. But, yeah, keep an eye on
Mahomes
that.
hasn't looked the same.
He hasn't.
I mean, he's been dealing with that ankle injury since I think back to week 1 against Jacksonville. So
Coach Zach Taylor was non-committal on AJ Green's potential to suit up on Sunday against the Jaguars. I would shy away from that one, honestly. I don't think AJ Green plays this week.
I think they need to trade him.
Or something.
I mean, there were reports last week about teams saying they would offer a first-round pick for him.
Get what you can from the older guy.
I don't understand how the Bengals just don't pull the trigger on that. I mean, this is a team that's still at least 2 years away.
Yeah, got AJ Green hanging out in a couple IR spots, just waiting. So,
yep.
When he does come back, he should be fine.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Ian Rappaport reports Jaguars wide receiver Marquise Lee is considered week to week with an ankle injury. He's been a non-factor.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter reports that Aqib Talib is expected to be placed on IR with a rib injury.
Sometimes we like to put.
Yeah. Well, no, and you should call it out, and I'll talk about the Rams here in a little bit also.
Sure.
Emmanuel Sanders is listed as limited participant in practice today with a knee injury. After the blow-up game, he's kind of had the knee injury last week, a dud the week before, so you're kind of probably still holding Emmanuel Sanders, but waiting. Cortland Sutton breaking out has kind of taken a lot of the thunder away from him.
Very true.
Well, this is the other reason that the Patriots would have re-signed Ben Watson. Mike Girardi reports that Patriots tight end Matt LaCosse is expected to miss at least a few weeks with a knee injury. So that's why Ben Watson was brought back, because Ryan Izzo is not going to be the only tight end they have.
Yes, probably not.
Yeah. 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel suffered a groin injury. He's considered day-to-day. Did see an uptick in work from Dante Pettis. Keep an eye on that. Samuel's flashed enough for a rookie, but not enough to be redraft relevant.
This offense is so confusing. Like outside of George Kittle, like it's so hard to predict what's going to happen,
especially with the stable of running backs.
Yeah, right.
Darius Leonard admitted to questioning his playing future after missing 3 weeks with a concussion. Centerpiece for the Colts defense, but I think everybody questions that after they get concussed, especially this day and age.
Yeah, just seeing the report on it and the fact that with the lots of Andrew Luck in the preseason, like he's gonna play. You already said he's gonna play. It's just it just goes to show, some of these guys, even at the highest of levels, they're not machines. They may end up quitting on their, I won't say quit on their team, excuse me, but they may end up retiring early because of these concussions, and more people are taking them more seriously, which is a good thing.
Yes, I think the bigger difference between a guy like Andrew Luck and a guy like Darius Leonard is just Leonard was a first-round pick, but he hasn't gotten that big contract yet, which is normally the second contract for most guys, whereas Luck kind of had that and had the money to do it. So, not that you don't get that as a Darius Leonard type pick, but for somebody like him, I'd expect him to at least hang out for that payday, barring multiple concussions or a multitude of them before they hang it up.
Yep.
Adam Schefter reports Cam Newton has been cleared to return to practice following the Panthers' Week 7 bye. This is interesting because you could have a little controversy here. I don't know if you've seen those rumors.
I've seen them. I've read them. They're all over the place.
I agree with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they go back to Newton if Kyle Allen's winning them football games.
Yeah, he's won them.
I don't
won them 4 straight after an 0-2 start. I have no idea how you don't continue to ride Kyle Allen, or what type of message that sends, or how that necessarily ends up working out. Honestly, I just don't. If Cam's healthy, then yes, he's got the ability to win you football games. But Kyle Allen right now is winning you football games. So it's kind of the same thing when Nick Foles comes back here in a few weeks with Gardner Minshew, who's done well, not so well against the Saints, but their defense caught fire. But I mean, it's just one of a few controversies where you've got a backup quarterback that's playing well, so what do you do? And I think this is probably the biggest of them, because Cam Newton was not playing great. There are questions about his health anyway coming into the season, and Kyle Allen just came in and played really, really well.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and get to pick your 6. This is going to be a fun round of discussions, I think. If I can find the drop, there it is.
Pick your six.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and let you start here with things we got wrong or right. And I have a couple of these written down. I'm sure you do too. This is something I desperately wanted to do since we're about halfway through the fantasy football season.
Yep.
What do you got?
So I wrote down two. I wrote down two things they got wrong and right.
I got 4. So
Yep, same here. So 4 total, 2 apiece.
Yep.
We'll just alternate them.
Okay.
I'll start. We'll start with things we got wrong because we like to talk about the things that we're not good at. So here we are. Joe Mixon was mine. I hammered Mixon home all off season. I will admit that. I thought he could just overcome the poor O-line play, all the injuries and stuff like that. We saw it last year. I figured we could have gotten it this year. Get a healthy Andy Dalton. Tyler Boyd year 2 after his breakout, or going into year 4 after his year 3 breakout. I thought that he could do it, but it's just been bad for him. He's only had 2 games above 10 fantasy points, none above 20. He's got no rushing touchdowns, just 1 receiving, only 1 game over 100 scrimmage yards. And for the rest of the season, he may only have 1 good matchup left, and that's against Miami in championship week, week 16.
Yep. Joe Mixon's the guy that I expected to I didn't even expect him to be this bad, right? Even if he dudded, I didn't expect it to be that bad. But man, has it been bad with the offense not being able to do much and that line being bad. Everything
I will say this
starts with the line.
I will say this though. Go out and trade for him if you're a team looking to retool. If this is not your year in Dynasty, not in redraft, of course, but in Dynasty, the talent's still there.
The Bengals will have to fix the offensive line, and they got a lot of things they need to fix. But if they're smart, they'll follow the Colts blueprint and fix the line play first.
Well, the line just needs to come back healthy. I mean, they're going to probably draft a quarterback this year and ride Mixon. Like this to me it could seem like a Todd Gurley. Now, granted, like I don't see the Bengals offense being as efficient as the Rams was a couple years ago when they broke out after their, the Jeff Fisher years, but there's so much talent here for him. It's just hard for me to see that he's going to just be put by the wayside,
I don't think he will be. And I think when they get Jonah Williams back next season and, kind of start to get healthy and maybe get another piece to that line, they should be better. The lack of a passing game so far this year hasn't necessarily done him any favors either, though, because there's 2 things that contribute to running back play. 1, if your offense can spread the field out, and 2, your offensive line. And neither of those things are happening for the Bengals right now.
Yeah, and the fact that he's seen no targets.
Yeah,
he's had 1 game above 4, so.
Yep. All right, I'll go ahead next with the thing I got wrong. Dante Pettis. This should be obvious. We've talked about it here on the show before, but his best game this year is 3 for 45 yards. He's a guy I was trying to hammer home and was kind of pushing through the things Shanahan was saying, but for whatever reason, he's just not getting fed like he was last year. He was productive when he got fed, but he's not getting the targets. I did sing a little bit about the chemistry between Garoppolo versus some of the other backup quarterbacks. That doesn't appear to be there. He's had 0 relevant fantasy weeks. He's safely droppable. Hold on to him in Dynasty because he showed last year that the talent is there and that he has the ability to produce. But whatever he did to piss Shanahan off, I have no idea. And really, the rapport just doesn't seem to be there. He did have his highest targeted game this past week after an injury to Deebo Samuel. I'm not sure if that's going to amount to anything, if that's going to progress as the season goes on. But yeah, I feel confident in saying that I was very, very wrong about Dante Pettis.
Yeah, like it just sucks because the talent is obviously there. We got to see the flashes of it last year, and Garoppolo, in theory, should have made this offense better. I just think they're with them lacking a number 1 receiver and a guy that can take the top off and a guy that can take away double coverage and things like that. I think it just makes it worse for the offense as a whole. And like the team itself just wants to run the football and funnel the targets through George Kittle. Like I didn't think it'd be this bad. I thought maybe one of these receivers would find a way to kind of DJ Chark themselves, so to speak, in this role, but it just hasn't happened yet. And I don't think it needs to for this team to continue to find success.
Yep, I agree. All right. Moving on. Not moving on from this. Sorry. It's back on you actually.
Back at me. So I just mentioned DJ Chark, so we're gonna mention him here. It wasn't so that we got a Ron. It's just that we picked the wrong player in Westbrook because most of us, I think, both of us included, especially me included, picked D.D. Westbrook to be the guy to kind of step up and take control of this offense. Now, obviously, we didn't expect to see Nick Foles to get hurt week one and get praise be to Gardner Minshew mania. Chark's been the guy who's really stepped up in this spot. He's averaging 7.5 targets per game, 8 fantasy points. Or sorry, he's averaging 7.3 targets per game and 16.3 fantasy points per game. And he's kind of having himself that Tyler Lockett type of season where he's extremely efficient with his touches. He leads the league through week 5, not counting week 6 now, through target premium and fantasy points per target. So it's been a great start for him. And I think it will continue as the rapport between him and Minshew has really taken off.
Yep. All right. One thing we were wrong about, and I think everybody was wrong about, was Juju Smith-Schuster. And you can call it wrong, you can call it injuries, you can call it whatever. Ben Roethlisberger with the non-contact elbow injury, not something anybody predicted. But yeah, even with Mason Rudolph, it's kind of had some all right weeks, and now on Duck Hodges, it's just the offense has fallen apart around him, and Juju hasn't been able to overcome that. The targets haven't been there. He's currently the wide receiver 39, and you hope that it gets better, but either way, he's not going to recover to have the season that we thought he would. Better days ahead for Juju Smith-Schuster, but I don't think it necessarily happens this year with what's gone on with that offense and the injuries at quarterback.
More on him in the buy low, sell high segment.
Spoilers. That's what we call a teaser here in the business.
That's what we call a teaser.
All right. Let's make it happier now. What's something you were right about?
All right. So Dalvin Cook. I just wish I was higher on him. I had him as my RB7 coming into the season. I think that was the highest among a lot of people.
He's the 2 right now, I think.
He's the 2 right now in season. I had him as the RB7 coming into the season. He was my RB7 coming into the season. I preached him as a late target for those late first round, early second round picks, on those turn picks, on those picks 8, 9, whatever, as a guy that could be a true third down back. We saw it last year as a bit of a teaser for what this offense was going to be this year, and that he was going to see a lot of carries and get a lot of work in the passing game. The offensive line has been a lot better in the running game, and I think that has to do with Gary Kubiak coming in and bringing in the zone blocking scheme that he's had throughout his career as a head coach and offensive coordinator. But as we said, he's RB2 through 6 weeks of the season. He's averaging over 20 points per game, and he scored in 5 of his first 6 games. I think the sky's the limit still for this guy, and I think with the passing game coming alive the last couple weeks, and with favorable matchups coming up, Cook is going to be in that top 3 discussion probably through most of the season, if not the entire season.
Yep. Dalvin Cook's done. He stayed healthy, and I think that was the biggest key for Dalvin Cook so far, knock on wood, is for him to stay healthy. I don't think that I was lower on Cook. I was lower on Cook from a health perspective with the repeated injuries, but he stayed healthy. We knew this team wanted to run the football. Yes, they're pulling away from that a little bit. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. We've seen back-to-back good weeks from Kirk Cousins, but overall, I think Dalvin Cook's about it, something everybody hoped he would be. And the fact that he's the running back too really is one, a testament to the improved line play, a testament to how good he's done in that scheme. And also, not to take anything away from Dalvin Cook, but also just the injuries and underperformance that's gone on around him. Kamara hasn't been himself since Breeze got hurt, who a lot of people expected to be up there with him. Gurley did not bounce back like some expected. Bell has not been quite that with the Jets. More on him later. So, some of those guys that went around Dalvin Cook, David Johnson hasn't performed at the hype he was getting. A lot of those guys that went around Dalvin Cook, not performing up to snuff, making Dalvin Cook even a better value for where you drafted him at.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and take the softball here with Baker Mayfield. We told everybody not to draft him in the third to fifth round. Anybody that would listen that there were going to be growing pains, there was going to be running, and that he was not going to be elite. Now he's been a little bit rough luck as far as the picks go. 5 touchdowns versus 11 interceptions. He does have 5 more picks than passes that were deserving of an interception, I believe is the stat I saw on Twitter. However, even if that was leveled out at truth, 5 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. Completion percentage is down at 56.6%, just a 2.5% touchdown rate, which is where he was better last season. This is kind of the Matt Ryan thing where we said somebody was going to regress or not repeat that, and boy, did they regress hard. Now, part of it's the offensive line play. He's not getting blocked for. Part of it's the fact that you come in with Odell Beckham, put him with Jarvis Landry, you lose David Njoku, injuries to Rashad Higgins. The offense hasn't really had a chance to mesh. I did see some things I liked more out of Baker this week, especially with him taking off and running when something wasn't there instead of trying to force it. I do think he continues to progress into more streamer status as the year goes on, and you see that start to get better. Not sure Freddie Kitchens was the best hire here, but either way, Baker Mayfield at quarterback 20 not performing, and like the 6th round guy you drafted.
Yeah, and he's part of the cut segment, so I'm just going to go ahead and just get that done with real quick. Their next matchups after their bye week this week: New England, Denver, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. Week 12 is when he gets to see Miami. It's probably the best streaming week he's going to have the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But that starts kind of the stressful part of the fantasy season, as just before all the playoffs start to take shape. So Mayfield not looking good for redraft. He's a big buy in 2 QB leagues and Dynasty for me at least. And I do expect this to get better. I don't think this is going to be a Josh Rosen situation. I don't think this is going to be a Derek Carr situation where they're just going to ignore the offensive line and not let him, and then see him get happy feet and that be his whole career.
Yep, I agree. All right. You got one more thing we were right about?
One more thing. David Montgomery.
We got the same one.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I figured there wasn't a whole lot left, and I figured I'd try to do one thing positive, one thing negative, so that we either got it right or got wrong. And this one just speaks to the Mayfield point is you reached John Montgomery in rounds 3 and 4. We told you not to. We told you, now, it wasn't in the same way that we thought it was going to be right now. I thought that Mike Davis would have more of a role, and I thought the offense will still perform better. But the touches have been there for Montgomery. He's had 2 games of 19 and 24 touches. He's got 2 touches of the season, which is okay. But no games over 100 total yards. Like he's not paying off of the draft price you paid for him, and it's definitely not been smooth sailing.
Yeah, running back 39 O-line play has not necessarily been great. Kyle Long just went on IR. He didn't take work. Mike Davis was exactly what we thought he was going to be, not much. But this panned out exactly how we thought, with Tariq Cohen still getting the majority of the passing work. Just 15 touches a game for David Montgomery. I'm going to throw an audible out there since to give my other thing we were right about. I'm going to go ahead and throw Marlon Mack out there is the thing we were right about. He's the running back 15 through week 5. They just had their bye week. Colts have proven they can run the football. If you drafted Marlon Mack, who I think was going 3rd or 4th round, you ended up with a guy that you can plug in as a running back too, feel good about it. He's shown a couple weeks that he has some massive upside. You don't really dud him. We know the Colts can run block. The offense has still managed to sustain with Jacoby Brissett to a degree. We said that when Brissett took over for Luck, Mack was a guy we weren't worried about. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there as something we were both right about, since you had David Montgomery as well. Just off the top of my head, Marlon Mack is the other guy I was looking at here.
That's fair. That's the right call. I mean, we were both pretty. I mean, we went off him just a little bit with the Luck news, because you kind of have to, just with the expected points scored to go down. But it's definitely not. It's definitely been better as what people. It's been better than what people expected it to be.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and talk the Rams offense briefly, and then a quick discussion on some midseason strategies, and then we'll combine our last 2 things because I think that they go very, very well together.
Perfect.
All right, so the Rams offense, something I wanted to talk about is just kind of what they did this week. I think that was the biggest storyline, and I found myself, I didn't get to watch the game, admittedly, because I was working, but I find myself looking at that box score going, what the hell? They were down the whole game, and Goff had 10 pass attempts up until the very, very end of it. Now, I know the 49ers defense is stifling, but I'm not entirely sure what they were trying to do. Just 78 passing yards for him. No wide receiver over 25 yards. No back had more than 40. And if you look at the season, overall the season's okay. Kupp's the wide receiver 3. Woods is a 24. Cooks is a 33. I think you expected Woods and Cooks to be a little bit higher. But I think the general feeling is that defenses are starting to figure the Rams out, and I just kind of wanted to get your take on what happened this week with that complete dud and what you've seen from the Rams here over the last couple weeks.
So there's a reason why I put Goff as a sit. There's also a reason why that I'm a bit concerned. He's had good games from a stat perspective, which is obviously good for fantasy, but that's because of game script, and that really has to do with Tampa Bay force them into a shootout. The loss to Todd Gurley, I think, hurts more than people think. Their offensive line has really regressed, but it's been 3 years. We've had 3 years with Sean McVay. The whole league knows who the fuck he is, and I think that's coming to haunt them. Goff was never a great QB. They did well because of the running game. The defense played very aggressive, and McVay was able to scheme and call great plays. At least caught up on that. They have that game script for him. I'm not shocked by this, but I'm shocked at the extent that it's been this bad. I saw on Twitter they had no third or fourth down conversions at all, which is pretty hard to win a football game if you don't have any of those. I do expect it to get better, but it's rough. I think you have to downgrade both Woods and Cooks at this point. I think you can't trust them as guys to throw out there every week. Kupp is fine because he's Goff's safety blanket, but you even have to take off some of his ceiling if the passing game is going to struggle this much with a poor offensive line and without a running game to kind of help take some of the defenders into the box.
Ooh, can I go back to the last segment for a second?
Yeah.
Things I was right about Cooper Kupp. Sorry.
I'm actually surprised you didn't put him down.
I don't know why. Probably because I think you were the only one I was fighting on that. But
and it was the same thing with Cook. It was the opposite of the injury.
It was.
It was just I expected a little bit of of a slow start, but I think that also speaks to where the offense is. Cooks has struggled. Woods didn't catch any of his 4 targets. He got a rushing touchdown, whatever.
Somehow,
some way. But it just speaks to how important Kupp is to that offense. If Kupp gets hurt again, or if anything was to happen, there's some real concern.
Now, one thing I will say about the offense is you have seen Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee used a little bit more as well. So
true.
Yeah, those were 2 things that weren't necessarily expected. All right. Another thing I want to talk about real quick. We're midway through the fantasy regular season with week 6. Most fantasy seasons will run through week 12 with playoffs weeks 13. Well, no, wait, I'm wrong about that. Either way, you get it.
We're getting
there. Next week is the midway point. It's kind of like middle of the week, I guess, because week 13 is the last regular season for most playoffs for a lot of leagues, and then 14, 15, 16 for playoffs. So, you don't really have a week 7.5 or 6.5.
We've been through 6 weeks. We kind of have a feel of how our teams look.
Yep.
We kind of have a feel of how the league that we're playing in, like what the look of the league is.
Yep. So just some strategies here. So I'm going to kick it out there first. Let's say that you're a team that's 1-4 and needs to go on a hot streak. You've maybe dealt with some injuries, have some pieces that are solid, or maybe a couple really good pieces without a whole lot around them. What are some viable strategies you have for a team that's like that to try and make it competitive going out and try to sneak into the playoffs?
You got to make some trades. You got to do something bold, and that means taking a chance on some of these, buy low players. Joe Mixon, again, only because he's going to be dirt cheap. You got to look at roster situations. You got to go out there and maybe see if you can get a Corey Davis for free off waivers. You got to. It's all about playing the waivers properly, and it's all about really keying in on the next 3 weeks. You're not looking at trying to make the playoffs now. You're just looking at winning the next week's game. So you want to start making the right calls and start shaping your roster to put you into a position to fight for a playoff spot. And that's trying to win the next week, not the next 3 or 4 weeks, just the next week.
You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, I think, is what comes into play here if you're in that situation. And really, what I mean by that is you got to know when to take a guy like Joe Mixon and maybe stick him on your bench and say, okay, I can't keep running him out here. I've got to find something better, or maybe I need to try to find somebody that wants to buy low on him and see if I can get maybe 2 streamable pieces or some guys that have a good schedule going forward. You got to start looking at the waiver wire week to week. It may be quarterback, defense, kicker, even, to decide where you can pick up some of those extra points and try to squeak out some wins. I know we don't talk kickers a whole lot on the show, but that is an area that I looked at with a couple of my struggling teams, and I'm like, okay, I drafted Jake Elliott. I've been running him out there, but he's not gotten more than like 4 points, and Joey Sly's sitting out there on waivers because nobody's paying attention, who's the kicker 3. I mean, the difference between that's an easy way to pick up 5 to 8 points a week. And then look at your defensive matchups. Don't be afraid to rotate people in and out. Use those churn roster spots. Make that happen. But also, if you have a player that is doing really, really well, let's say you have a Cooper Kupp, but your team isn't performing, don't be afraid to flip that one very, very good player for maybe 2 to 3 lesser players at their position that are going to give you some depth. Because 3 guys that score 10 points a week that you can start is more than 1 guy that scores 20. So
it's just all about looking at the matchups. You don't want to just trade the trade, and you don't want to try to make side trades. You don't want to just trade off a good player in hopes that the players that you got to package in for will do something. You gotta be smart about the players that you pick from. Targeting guys like Hopkins, who has not produced, but it's gotten the targets. His breakout games coming along. Looking at guys like even Derrick Henry, who's coming off of a really poor week. Still very much just a good play in that offense, that the offense could take the next step forward. It's just all about looking at matchups and not being afraid to take some risks.
Yep, I agree with that completely. And for a team that I'm going to build off of one of the points you just made. For a team that is doing well, don't trade just to trade or because you feel like you need to move. If you're doing well, if you are, 5-1, 4-2, somewhere in there, keep doing what you're doing. Don't feel like you have to make moves just to make moves, or accept offers just to accept offers, or because you feel like you're staying the course. It's okay to be happy with a team that is performing well. If you're near the top of the league in points, if you have some players that you think are not performing necessarily up to snuff that might turn it around, it is also okay to stand pat. Don't move just to move.
Yeah. And this always speaks to it. You got to start looking at the next few weeks. If you're a team that's riding high, like let's say you have Austin Eckler. Now, granted, his value is taking a little bit of a hit, but he's not completely dead in the water. Look at that, trying to move that. You just have to look at the schedules. If you're in a good position with your record, especially if you scored a lot of points, you still can't just not play the waivers. You still have to look at making trades. This is where you can start taking the next step and looking at playoff matchups, looking down the road a little bit more, not making trades just to trade, not trading away your best pieces, but start looking at some of the overperformers that you have on your roster and seeing if you can churn them for guys struggling who have positive matchups moving forward. Helps bolster your depth, allows you to get some players that have better perceived upside but lower value because they've struggled, that that could give you something moving forward. And definitely start paying attention to the defenses. If you have defenses in your league, As you can see with New England, a good defense can outright win you weeks.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. Let's go ahead and talk some buy low, sell high. I had metrics don't necessarily equal results. That kind of plays into this. And what I meant by that subject line is that you may have some guys that are getting targets, but may not necessarily be performing up to the volume you're getting. You may have some guys that are being efficient, but might not necessarily be getting the volume, or some guys that are, yeah, you get it. So,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk some buy low, sell highs. Dan, go ahead. I've got 2 buy lows and 1 sell high. I couldn't find another sell high.
I did 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end.
Okay.
We'll start with Devonta Freeman. After a slow start to the year, he was RB48 for the first 2 weeks. Since then, he's been the RB12 from week 3 on. He's averaging 16.5 points per game during that span. He's got 3 receiving touchdowns in his past 2 weeks. No rushing, but they're taking upside from the passing game. 17 targets in those 3 games, and he's caught 16 of them. His next matchups are against the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Saints. Are you selling high on Freeman, or are you holding Schraub?
As far as Freeman goes, Freeman, Devonta or Royce? Sorry,
I'm sorry,
family stuff going
Freeman.
on.
Devonta Freeman.
So Devonta Freeman, I'm gonna ride him. I think that this was a thing that with Freeman where he started off slow and you're kind of seeing him start to figure it out and the offense figure out how to use him and kind of fall into rhythm here. So, if you can, because I mean he just came off of a good week, but if somebody's still low on him, kick the tires for sure. But I would probably ride him out a little bit. He's a guy that I expect to perform better than what he was coming off of injury, not really playing a whole lot the year before.
Sure.
All right. I'll go ahead and I'm going to go with the sell high. And my sell high is going to be on Terry McLaurin.
Have him down too.
Do you? Perfect.
I do.
Same category.
Yeah, but we'll just
17.7 yards per reception, 10 points, but just 10.7 yards per target, just 38 targets, so not a whole lot of volume there. It's a super fluid situation there as well. You caught 2 touchdowns this past week, sure, but you got a team that has come out and blatantly said, hey, we want to run the ball more. You saw that a bit with Adrian Peterson. His next 3 games are not good either. San Francisco, Minnesota, Buffalo, probably going to tank his value a little bit. So for me, I'm saying that while Terry McLaurin is up there, the offense isn't quite good enough around him to sustain those good matchups just yet. I believe in the talent, but he's a guy in redraft that I'd be trying to sell high on and sell out of.
Oh, easily. He's a wide receiver 10 right now. He's got no game below 7 targets, so he's got a floor. He's got a good floor. He's got a boom bust floor because he's got a really huge average target of depth here. He's their big play guy. He does well in strong matchups. He posted 50 yards against New England, which doesn't seem great, but it's one of his worst matchups of the year. I'm selling high on him anyways because I just don't believe in the offense, and I think those dud weeks are going to be coming against some of these more difficult matchups. The Redskins themselves, I agree with you. They came out and said they want to run the football more. Peterson looked better in a very favorable matchup. The offense as a whole is going to be bad. And I think if you're selling high, you have to do it this week, and you have to do it with on somebody who just sees the stats themselves, not the matchups coming up, because you're not moving them after next week. It's going to be too hard.
No.
After their game against San Francisco.
It absolutely will be. All right. Your turn. Go ahead.
Sorry. All right. So we talked about this. I'm bringing up Joe Mixon because this is the ultimate buy low guy if you want to. Now, he's not a buy low because just because he's a first round pick and he sucked. The ultimate questions that people have had through Joe Mixon is, can you even trust him to play anymore? Like, is he worth throwing in your starting roster? But there are people out there, and I am one included, that I think there could be some weeks alone. I do have some teams that have struggled that I need to start making some more of these desperation plays or these kind of Hopefully they pay off plays. But he's coming off of an 8-carry week, 10-touch performance against the Ravens. It's worst of the year when he's played a full game.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking the risk on Mixon? Or are you just punting off his redraft here?
I think he's probably worth the risk, and here's kind of why I think he's worth the risk, right? I think when AJ Green gets back, you're going to see that offense open up a little bit more. The passing game has not been good, but assuming AJ Green doesn't get traded when he comes back, that you're going to have a bit more of a target. You're going to see that offense take off a bit more. But I think Zach Taylor is also going to eventually figure out how to use Joe Mixon and figure out what they need to do there. So, and I also think that if you need running back help, Joe Mixon's a guy that you're trying to trade for basically peanuts and hoping he pans out and gets it right over the second part of the year with as talented as he actually is. So I completely agree with Mixon being a buy low. He's a guy that a lot of people had ranked as a top 14 running back because of the talent that's there. So if the Bengals can kind of start to mesh and come together, and that offense can kind of start to figure it out over the second half of the season, and Joe Mixon can at least give you RB2 value, you can probably trade for him for next to nothing at the moment.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets dropped. He gets Jacksonville next week, then he plays the Rams in LA before their bye week in week 9. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Green doesn't come back to week 10, which is after their bye week against Baltimore at home. I do agree with you. Green's going to he should open up this offense more. The line needs help, but Dalton and his rapport is going to help the passing game thoroughly, and it's going to also help kind of free up the guys in the box, let Mixon do his thing more, and kind of give Zach Taylor a little more freedom and a little bit more creativity with his play calling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I'll go ahead and hit one of my buy lows. It's also with the Bengals. It's going to be Tyler Boyd. And I don't know if you realize this or not. He's third in the league in targets. Tyler Boyd is.
I did not.
He's got
that is wow.
He's got 60 of them.
That's pretty good.
He's drawing top coverage without AJ Green though, and hasn't been able to perform with it. And the volume's there. You got to figure that's going to start coming around, especially if and when Green gets back. You're going to see Green draw that coverage. Boyd kind of sit in the Auden Tate role. More on him later. And he's another one that I would just be willing with what he did last year to go ahead and buy low and take a shot on if for some reason they needed wide receiver help. I know wide receivers are relatively deep, but 60 targets is, at this point in the year is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's a hot pace, assuming I read that right. I'm going to vet that real quick, but that is a hot pace.
Yeah, it's 160 targets at the end of the year. That's 10 targets a game. They haven't had their bye week yet, so obviously that should be the case at this point. I think the loss of John Ross also hurt them because he was their deep threat. He at least gave them something to take the top off. I do agree with as much as we hate on John Ross here, he has NFL value to him.
Yeah,
maybe not so much fantasy value, but the merge of Auden Tate should also help. You get Green back, you get Joe Mixon going in the right way. Zach Taylor can maybe and hopefully start putting together a decent game plan. Their matchups get a little bit better moving forward. It's not great, like I said. Miami week 16. If you can hold through on until then, that may be the Joe Mixon blows up and Tyler Boyd potentially blows up.
It's kind of
for that.
He's gonna be a week to week piece. You got the Jaguars who, depending on if Ramsey's healthy or not, or if Green is back or not next week. Then the Rams without Aqib Talib. So we know Peters is beatable again, depending. The Ravens, who have not been great against the pass this year, partially because Humphrey's been good, but without Jimmy Smith, that just hurts your secondary. But then you get the Raiders, the Jets, you got the Steelers mixed in there, Browns, Patriots. I mean, it's a very, very mixed bag for Tyler Boyd the rest of the season. But, this is a guy that's getting 10, 11 targets a game almost. I think his lowest is 7. So, volume alone, if you need help, if he can start to string together some good games, I think that's the guy you go after.
I have no problem in just going around the Boyd owner and seeing what you can get for him.
Yep. All right, give me another one of yours.
All right, we're gonna go another buy low, potentially buy low. I always shape these as questions more so than what you should do with them is as Juju Smith-Schuster. We talked about him briefly, or we talked about him extensively here during the news segment. It's been bad for him. No games over 10 targets, just 2 touchdowns on the season. No games over 100 yards receiving, and no games over 20 points. He's coming off of his worst game of his career. I have to think 1 catch for 7 yards and 4 targets. His next 3 matchups: Miami, Indy, and the Rams. Which I like all 3. Maybe not so much Indy because they'll slow the pace down, but either way, are you buying low in redraft? Obviously, in Dynasty you will, but are you buying low on Juju Smith-Schuster this year?
Yes. Mason Rudolph's going to come back at some point, who was drafted to be the quarterback of the future, and Juju was doing all right with Mason Rudolph. I think with the Steelers' defense playing better, they may be able to run the ball more, but I think as defense is key on the run more, that's going to help you a little bit with Juju. And I just generally think he's better than the wide receiver 39 where he's at right now. So if you got an owner that's low on Juju and is looking to sell him, completely okay with taking a buy low approach to Juju with all the upside that he has, and trying to turn that into something and cashing in on that.
Yeah, I got no issue with that. They desperately need Deontay Johnson, a James Washington, or
Deontay
Moncrief.
One of those 3 to step up.
Someone's got to step up. Same with Van Stance.
Or Vanette.
Yeah, Nick Vanette as well. Then need Jalen Samuels back and healthy. It's I know Juju can be fine on its own, but Mason Rudolph or the Duck guy from last night, they're not Ben Roethlisberger. This offense is completely different without Ben in it. That's going to hurt majority of these elite receivers. You see it with Hopkins, with Brock Osweiler, you saw it with Larry Fitz during his career, during the Kevin Cobb career and shit like that. So these great receivers can struggle with bad QB
Kevin
play.
Cobb. Wow. There's a name I haven't heard in forever.
I know. I saw a massive Twitter debate on Stephon Diggs, and his name kept getting brought up. I'm like, why the fuck is Kevin Cobb being brought up so much? But it's to speak to that point, though. Elite receivers can be taken down by piss poor QB play.
Yes, they absolutely can. All right. My last buy low, my third one, Le'Veon Bell. So he's had a pretty mediocre couple weeks. He's been just 100 yards from scrimmage once. Darnold is back, which is going to help open things up for him, but I just wanted to highlight his schedule the rest of the way. So they've got New England next week. That ain't going to be good. But after that, Jacksonville, who's once again been piss poor against the run, Miami, the Giants, Washington, Oakland, Cincinnati, and Miami.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, when did they say Buffalo again?
Not until later. Hold on.
Week 17 then?
I'll pull it up.
But either way, I absolutely love
there's a bad stretch to end their season, but I mean, if you're a team, especially right now, that is struggling and needs running back help, after this week's game against the Patriots, when his stock should get even lower, I'd fully expect Le'Veon Bell to hit next level. Let's see the Bills in week 17. That's
perfect.
After the Dolphins, it's Ravens, Steelers, Bills.
Ooh.
So Ravens and Steelers a little rough, but
Ravens is beatable.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh is. We'll see. It's a long time until the end of those weeks come up, so things could change.
Yeah,
I do like that call because he's gonna get a shit ton of targets regardless of QB2.
Yeah, you should get a shit ton of targets, and he should actually be able to run the football. And those are some winnable games where the game script should play out in his favor. So Le'Veon Bell's a guy that if you need to try to win now, go start kicking the tires and seeing what you can get him for, because you might not get the best, you may not get the best deal on him, but if you offer up something that's even slightly better than Le'Veon Bell has been and get the owner to bite, I think that's going to pay off for you, because you haven't seen what Le'Veon Bell is going to be in that Jets offense just yet. You're going to see it over not next week, but the probably 7 weeks after that is when Le'Veon Bell is going to pay off.
Yeah, I'm desperately trying to buy him in a lot of leagues.
All right, what do you got?
All right, last one, Darren Waller. Crazy start to the year for him. He was leading all tight ends in target share to start this season. I think at over 30%. And he had a huge breakout game against the Vikings when he had 13 catches and 14 targets. The last 2 weeks, though, he's come back down to earth. There's 13 targets total, 92 yards during that span. Still hasn't found the end zone because, matchups against Green Bay, Houston, Detroit coming up. Are you buying low on Darren Waller in this weak, very, very weak tight end market?
Yeah, I am buying low on Darren Waller in a weak tight end market, and I'm betting something real quick. Please hold. Well, there's something I wanted to look at here because I know one of those games was against the Bears where Eddie Jackson's a very, very good coverage guy.
It was their last week in London. He had 5 targets.
Yeah,
They're coming off their bye week. His last 2 games has not been good.
I was looking to so there was no Malik Hooker for the Colts, but still, Colts defense has been pretty good as far as Darren Waller goes. Look, even at what he did against Indy, really 7 of 8 for 53, that's a startable tight end week.
Yep.
So 4 or 5 for 39 against the Bears, and Green Bay probably not going to be great. But then you go to Houston, you get Detroit. I don't expect Green Bay to be a fantastic matchup. Houston, Detroit, Chargers, Bengals, Jets, Chiefs. I mean, after that, you're pretty solid for him to actually have some production. So, yeah, I'd buy low on Darren Waller if you can, as low as you can buy on a tight end that has volume.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets. I was a little shocked. Maybe he would have gotten cut during the bye week, but if he struggles against Green Bay, there's a definitely good chance the teams are going to start becoming even more desperate as we hit the middle of the weeks, as people start trying to make moves. It's like a Saturday for golf.
Yeah,
this is a moving day. People are going to start trying to make some of these desperation moves the next 2 to 3 weeks here.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and hit a beer review.
Beer review.
All right. Go ahead. Dan, what did you think?
Yep. So I had Layla from Heavy Raft. This is their pineapple mango variant of it. It's true to the word of a wild ale. It's very funky on the nose. I finished it already, but it's very funky on the nose. Had that pineapple type of color to it in the glass. It's got a decently strong tartness to it on the mouth. Pineapple definitely sticks through. I don't get too much of the mango on it. It finishes clean. It's still tart, obviously, throughout the actual drink, but it finishes fairly clean for a wild ale. I think if you like the style of beer, I think you would really enjoy, especially if you like pineapple. I think you would really enjoy this wild ale.
All right, Ice House. So as far as 99-cent to tall boy beers go, it's not bad. This is actually something that I would take out of my uncle's fridge whenever I was younger and drink on. So kind of throwing it back here. As far as the flavor goes, it is kind of one of the more flavorful, and not by that I don't mean harsh, cheap beers you can get. It's kind of like a lighter Miller flavor, almost, if you will. A little bit sweeter, but definitely tastes like a beer. So as far as 99-cent bullshit goes in this beer fueled value edition, you could probably do worse than Ice House.
That's fair.
There you go. I just gave a glowing review for Ice House. It honestly was one of my favorite. I liked it a little bit more flavor wise than like Natural Light or Busch Light or some of those other cheaper beers. So
yeah,
good job, Ice House, I guess.
Good job.
Shout out Ice House. Oh, good Lord. I can't wait to drink a good beer again. Not that Ice House is terrible, like I just said. Just can't wait to drink something that is crafty again. Anyway, let's get some beer goggles on and rapid fire this thing out.
Word.
Beer goggles.
All right, let's go ahead and start with you, Jameson Crowder.
So
we both have Jets.
Yep. So we're gonna pair up the Jets receivers. I think they're both fantastic waiver pickup. So Jamison Crowder, just 2 games with Darnold to start out his short career with the Jets. 17 targets in week 1, 9 targets this past week against Dallas. Week 6 was better in terms of his actual yards per reception at 16.3. I think Crowder is the perfect floor guy if you're looking for that floor production for the upcoming bye weeks.
All right, for Robbie Anderson, he's 6th in route participation. He was getting nothing as far as catchable passes go. His breakout year of 2017, he really didn't turn it on until week 8. Last year, it was kind of like week 12. He's a notoriously late starter. He's out there on waivers under just 56% of leagues. Jacksonville and Miami, then after New England. So New England's not going to be a great matchup as normal. Jacksonville and Miami depends on the health of Howard and Ramsey. Then a soft matchup against the Giants, Washington, and Oakland, in Cincinnati before you go back to Miami. So there's a stretch there for the Jets where the schedule is super cushy, which is why we recommended Le'Veon Bell. So why we're talking about Jamison Crowder and Robbie Anderson right now as being guys you want to pick up and try to start.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. You had a pick that I love. I actually picked up some pass rushers here for my IDP league. The 49ers defense, who has been absolutely stifling and I believe is the real deal.
Yeah, so they're owning 58.5%. I fully expect this to reach in the 80s to get Washington next week. Washington next week. Yeah, so I think this was this is a game that people were kind of pinning on to see if this defense is going to be legit, and they made Goff and the Rams look like high school football team up there. It was unbelievable how much they shut them down. They've been averaging about 4 sacks a game. They've only given up 20 points. And in this last game on Sunday was the only game they didn't get a pick in, but they did get a forced turnover, a forced fumble. So you got a great floor. There's always chances for sacks and for pick sixes when you get sacked, or there's always chances for sack fumble returns and pick six returns when you're getting turnovers and getting sacks and an offense that's producing points. They don't have a great end of year matchup, but their next 3, Redskins, Panthers, and Cardinals, are all favorable matchups in terms of getting that floor game and potential touchdowns. We don't talk about defenses enough. I know that a lot of leagues are looking to move away from kickers and defenses, but if you're still playing it and you're still holding on to the number 1 waiver claim, if you're still playing with waivers, you got to pick them up because I think it's going to be very good for them moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love that call. So I'm looking at Frank Gore, 56% owned. He's a guy that I've held on to and talked about multiple times this year. 4.4 yards per attempt. He's getting 15 attempts per game, so he's getting volume. Singletary is seeing some stuff, but it's like 6 to 7 carries a game. Not enough to make Frank Gore not relevant. He's been very, very good in that offense. He's got Miami. And a tougher matchup against Philly, Washington, Cleveland, Miami again before the schedule gets bad. So you can probably pick up out of those 4 very, very good starts out of Frank Gore, the Philadelphia game notwithstanding. But we've also seen the Bills be able to run it against some tougher teams. So Frank Gore's a guy I want to have around for this and for the stretch run just in case I catch an injury or something like that. You go ahead and plug in. He's a perfect guy to sit on your bench, is that type of insurance, but also going to be able to start him a few times over the next couple of weeks to boost your chances at winning.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
I've taken the softball here.
Yeah, you did, and I actually left the softball for you. I was going to take this one, and I left it for you because I took 2 other guys that I thought were pretty well softballs. So go ahead with Hunter Henry. So
Hunter Henry, 54% owned. If anything from last night told you, if you've learned anything from last night, is that he's going to be a top 6, if not higher, tight end moving forward, withstanding injuries, of course. 2 touchdowns in this game last night. He will be competing with Keenan Allen for those over the middle targets, since we saw that Keenan Allen did not have the best of games. But we always knew with Hunter Henry that the touchdown upside was real, and we saw that last night. And he needs to be owned in all leagues.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All right. As for me, I gagged a little bit when I did this, but wanted to leave Dan at least one guy I thought was easy. The waiver wire is pretty thin right now, to be honest, but Auden Tate, at least until AJ Green gets back. So Tyler Boyd, we know, is taking most of the targets and most of the coverage. Auden Tate's at 3 of his last 5 weeks. Good. He's seen 32 targets over the last 4 weeks. Probably completely dead once Green is back, but until then, this is just something you pick up and ride out while Boyd's getting top coverage, and Tate is able to benefit from it.
Yeah, this is a team that it's generally looking to play catch-up mode. Tate 6'5", slow as fuck, but he's converting those 50-50 throws. I expected him to continue to see even red zone targets when Green comes back. Well, I do believe he's dead. Right now, you kind of have to write out the targets that he's getting now and the production that he's getting from it.
Yeah. All right. We got some cuts for you now. Guys that you should try to pick up. Let's go ahead and put the Chiefs wide receivers together too. Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman. For Robinson, it's pretty simple. He had caught 0 passes this week, gave you a complete dot on just 4 targets, 3 straight bad weeks. Tyreek Hill's back. He's going to take those targets away. Sammy Watkins on his way back. Demarcus Robinson was nice for the week that he blew up. Okay for the week after that. Hasn't really been that great since then. Is the offense has struggled a little bit, and the volume is just not going to be there with the top 2 wide receivers plus Travis Kelce back.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple with this team now, especially with Mahomes banged up and not being able to do the Mahomes things that we know and love. You can drop both Hardman and Robinson. Hardman did convert all 4 of his targets last week for a passable flex week, but he is just like Robinson will always be, just 3 to 6 targets, and you're hoping for a touchdown. And while you can get away with that in some of these deeper leagues, especially if they're heavy starting rosters and you're hurting on waivers, or especially if you're hurting with bye weeks as well, there's just no trust in a number 2 and 3 in this offense at this point. When Watkins does come back, it just means they're completely dead. They're going to ride out their superstars. They're not going to ride on these wide receiver 4 and 5s.
Right. All right. Next up, we've got Baker Mayfield and the Rams defense.
Yeah. We already talked extensively about both of these things. You can drop Baker. I'm surprised he's still owned in 66% of leagues.
Yep.
Go ahead. I know that Dynasty is still being taken apart if you're not obviously dropping Baker in Dynasty. So I would have expected that percentages to at least be into the 30s and 40s.
Yep. As for the Rams defense and special teams, the Rams 78.1% owned. Talib just went on IR. I never understood why the Rams were being drafted as high as they were. That was one of the things that when we got to draft time, I kind of was very eyebrow raising to me as a wait what type of thing. And they're the defense 19, so completely justified. Pass rush isn't there. They don't generate a ton of turnovers. That defense is not, while they can kind of limit points a little bit, that's not a fantastic fantasy defense to have. Outside of, Aaron Donald does his thing, but one player does not a great fantasy defense make. So
he's the defensive tackle. It's very difficult for him to get turnovers there.
Right. It's very difficult for him to get turnovers, and while he'll get the occasional sack, even at 1 to 2 sacks a game from one player, for a defense to be outstanding, you're getting 4 to 5 most weeks plus turnovers. So
yeah.
All right. And then a pair of tight ends to end it off. You got Vance McDonald.
Yeah. So many people, including myself, did the Vance stance. We love the potential upside in this offense, and it just hasn't been there. 6 targets in his past 3 games. Only 1 game this season over 5 targets, and that was week 2, where he put up his only passable streaming week when he had 2 touchdowns. I just don't see any upside to him, especially after the bye week. He doesn't see a favorable matchup until week 14 when they play Arizona.
All right. As for me, OJ Howard was my drop, and this should go without saying if you're an OJ Howard owner. He's tied in 32, just 4 more targets than Cameron Brate, 2 fewer touchdowns, 2 red zone targets all season. He hasn't panned out. You can believe Arian saying his time is coming, his time is coming, his time is coming. You're 6 weeks into the season, and that hasn't come yet. I just don't know how much longer you keep holding on to that and hoping that he's the breakout tight end 5 that a lot of people had him as.
There's a lot of coming there.
A lot of coming.
There's a lot of coming, but it wasn't from Howard because he's shooting blanks.
More coming here than on Pornhub.
And
that's where we'll end it.
Yikes.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday with our normal previews. So Dennis, yes, I am also glad I was able to find the super limited small batch ice house to try tonight. So I'll have some cellar age stuff coming up here though. So in the next couple weeks to go, even maybe potentially along with the crap beer. I've got some stuff that I've been sitting on, a lot of barrel aged stuff for 6+ months now that I'm ready to start breaking out and getting my lips on. So, yep. Anyway, be back Wednesday. Beerfield the FF on Twitter, Instagram, on tap. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. I am at Hot BFF. Dan, any parting words?
Lions are up 13-10 for those that care. It's been a little bit gross.
I care because the Lions are winning and fuck the Packers.
Yeah. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
All right. Oh, I just burped. That ice house again.
Ooh.
Oof. See you Wednesday.
Yeah.